so painful that some people in this world seem to think that I would have it in me to do.
We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant as to count 1, first-degree murder, guilty.
All right, we're going to need to take a break.
The dramatic courtroom collapse of Diana Lovejoy. The courtroom was packed with anticipation as the jury prepared to deliver their verdict in the high-profile case of Diana Lovejoy. Lovejoy, a fitness instructor and former triathlete, had been charged with conspiring to murder her ex-husband, Greg Mulvihill, in the aftermath of a bitter divorce. The story was a sensational one, a suburban mother accused of plotting a cold-blooded hit on her former spouse, enlisting the help of her boyfriend, Weldon McDavid Jr., a former Marine and firearms instructor. The trial had captivated the nation, revealing a web of deceit, desperation, and betrayal. Lovejoy's divorce from Mulvihill had been acrimonious, marred by accusations of abuse, custody battles, and financial disputes. Despite the contentious split, no one could have anticipated the drastic measures Lovejoy would take in her quest to sever ties with her ex-husband permanently. During the trial, the prosecution presented a damning case against Lovejoy and McDavid. They detailed how Lovejoy had manipulated McDavid into believing that Mulvihill was a threat to her and her young son. McDavid, who had developed a romantic relationship with Lovejoy, agreed to carry out the hit. On September 1, 2016, Mulvihill was lured to a secluded dirt road under the pretense of receiving crucial documents related to their custody dispute. As Mulvihill arrived at the location, he was ambushed and shot by McDavid, who was lying in wait with a sniper rifle. Miraculously, Mulvihill survived the attack, managing to call 911 despite his life-threatening injuries. As the courtroom awaited the jury's decision, Lovejoy sat stoically, her face a mask of composure. It had been a long and grueling trial, with both sides presenting their versions of the story. The defense had tried to paint Lovejoy as a victim of domestic abuse, driven to extreme measures by fear and desperation. They argued that she had never intended for anyone to be harmed, claiming that her actions were a misguided attempt to protect herself and her child. The prosecution, however, had presented overwhelming evidence of Lovejoy's guilt. Phone records, emails, and witness testimonies painted a picture of a woman who was not only complicit but instrumental in orchestrating the murder plot. They revealed how Lovejoy had transferred large sums of money to McDavid and had meticulously planned the ambush, showing little regard for the potential consequences. When the jury returned with their verdict, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Lovejoy's family and friends, as well as Mulvihill's supporters, filled the gallery, holding their breath in anticipation. The four-person stood and delivered the verdict, guilty on all counts, including conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. The moment the verdict was read,
980. Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Weldon K. McDavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Hang on. All right, we're going to need to take a break. You're done. And if we could have, the jury go back into the room. Okay, folks. Okay, at this point, we need to clear out the courtroom. Let's go.
a gasp rippled through the courtroom. All eyes turned to Lovejoy, who had maintained her stoic demeanor throughout the trial. But now, faced with the reality of her conviction, her composure shattered. Her eyes widened in shock, her face drained of color, and she swayed unsteadily on her feet. As the weight of the verdict sank in, Lovejoy's body betrayed her emotions. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed to the floor in a dead faint. Gasps and murmurs filled the courtroom as bailiffs rushed to her aid. Medical personnel were quickly summoned, and the judge called for a brief recess as they tended to the stricken defendant. Lovejoy's dramatic collapse added another layer of drama to an already sensational case. It was a stark reminder of the human toll that such trials exact, not only on the victims and their families, but also on the perpetrators. The once confident fitness instructor lay on the courtroom floor, a broken woman facing the consequences of her actions. As the court reconvened, Lovejoy, now conscious but visibly shaken, was helped back to her seat. The judge addressed the courtroom, emphasizing the gravity of the crime and the thoroughness of the judicial process. Sentencing would be scheduled for a later date, but the conviction alone marked a significant victory for the prosecution and a measure of justice for Mulvihill. In the days following the verdict, the case continued to dominate headlines. Lovejoy's collapse was replayed on news broadcasts and social media, becoming a symbol of the high emotional stakes involved in such criminal proceedings. Public opinion was divided, with some expressing sympathy for Lovejoy, seeing her as a troubled woman driven to desperation, while others viewed her as a calculating criminal who had tried to manipulate the system to her advantage. Greg Mulvihill, who had shown remarkable resilience and strength throughout the ordeal, expressed relief at the verdict. In a statement, he thanked the jury, the investigators, and the legal team for their dedication and hard work. He spoke of the emotional and physical scars he carried, but emphasized his determination to move forward and rebuild his life for the sake of his son. The case of Diana Lovejoy served as a sobering reminder of the devastating impact of domestic disputes when they spiral out of control. It highlighted the importance of addressing underlying issues of abuse and mental health before they escalate into violence. For the community of Carlsbad, California, it was a wake-up call to the hidden dangers that can lurk behind the facade of suburban tranquility. As Lovejoy awaited sentencing, she faced the prospect of spending the rest of her life behind bars. The dramatic end to her trial was a fitting conclusion to a case marked by deception, betrayal, and ultimately, justice.